All right, let's just jump right into it. If you're building a budget-friendly AI PC right now, you are going to face one of the toughest choices out there. Do you get the RTX 4060 Ti, or do you stretch the budget just a little bit for the RTX 4070? This is the ultimate battle of VRAM versus raw power, and today we're going to figure out which one is right for you.
So, you're ready to build a rig. You want to mess with Stable Diffusion, run some local language models, do all that cool creative AI stuff. You want the most bang for your buck, but you're not trying to build a supercomputer in your basement. Well, you are in exactly the right place.
Okay, so here are our contenders. In one corner, you've got the RTX 4060 Ti, and it comes in two flavors, an 8GB version and that really, really tempting 16GB version. And in the other corner, you have the beefier RTX 4070 with its 12 gigs of VRAM. This right here, this is the core of the problem. Do you go for more memory or do you go for more raw horsepower?
To really get that, we need to pop the hood and look at some numbers. But don't worry, I'm not just going to throw a spec sheet at you. We're going to break down what this stuff actually means for the projects you want to work on.
First up, the headline feature for the bigger 4060 Ti, 16 gigabytes of VRAM. For some AI work, this number is, well, it's everything. It's literally the difference between your project running and just not running at all.
But then you glance over at the RTX 4070 and you see this number, 5,888 CUDA cores. Now that's more than 1,500 more than the 4060 Ti. This is the engine. This is the raw muscle that does all the heavy lifting. Okay, so here's the best way to think about this. Your VRAM, that's the size of your workbench. The 4060 Ti 16GB gives you this huge, sprawling workbench where you can lay out these massive, complex AI models. CUDA cores, on the other hand, that's how fast your hands are. The 4070 has way faster hands, so it can finish jobs quicker, as long as the project actually fits on its slightly smaller workbench.
And this table right here really shows you how that analogy plays out with the real numbers. We talked about the CUDA cores, the fast hands, and the 4070 has a clear win there, but look at the memory interface. You can think of that as how wide the hallway is leading to your workbench. The 4070's wider path lets it shuttle data back and forth way faster than the 4060 Ti, which gives it another major speed advantage.
Specs on a page are one thing, right? But how does all this stuff actually perform when you're running your AI tasks? This is where each of these cards starts to show its true colors.
This quote from Tom's Hardware just nails the dilemma perfectly. It's easy to run a benchmark and say, yep, the 4070's faster. But the benefit of all that extra VRAM on the 4060 Ti? It's about possibilities. It's having the option to run these huge, complex models that would just instantly crash the card with less memory.
So this really splits all AI work into two main categories. On one side, you've got compute-bound tasks. This is all about raw speed. How many images can you generate per minute? How fast is that chatbot? Then on the other side, you've got VRAM-bound tasks. These are the ones that are just too big to fit in a smaller memory pool, like generating super high-res images or loading up a massive local language model.
And when it comes to those compute-bound, speed-focused tasks, it's not even a contest. The RTX 4070 is consistently 20 to 40% faster. That's a huge difference you'll actually feel. If your goal is just to crank out a ton of images as quickly as possible, the 4070 is a no-brainer.
But, and this is a really big but, if your work is in that VRAM-bound category, that 4060 Ti 16GB suddenly becomes absolutely essential. You just plain can't run some of the bigger, smarter local language models without that kind of memory. In those cases, 16 gigs of VRAM isn't a nice-to-have. It's a hard requirement. Now, let's be real. Most of us don't just use our PCs for one thing. Your AI rig is probably going to be your gaming rig and your video editing rig too. So how do these cards compare when you're not doing AI? For gaming, no surprises here. The story is pretty much the same, especially at that 1440p sweet spot that everybody's aiming for these days. The raw power of the 4070 gives it that same 20 to 40% performance boost. That means higher frame rates, a way smoother experience, and more power to crank up those demanding settings like ray tracing. For content creation, it gets a little more nuanced. If you're doing something like 3D rendering, the 4070's extra CUDA cores will finish those jobs faster. But if you're a video editor, stacking up a ton of 4K clips, all that VRAM on the 4060 Ti can actually make your timeline feel a lot smoother and prevent stuttering. So it depends on what you do.
Okay, we've looked at the specs, we've gone through the AI tests, we've even talked about gaming. It's time to put it all together and finally answer the question. The thing is, as you've probably figured out, there isn't one best card. It all comes down to what you are actually planning to do with this thing.
So here's who should buy the RTX 4060 Ti 16GB. Get this card if your number one absolute top priority is VRAM. If you know for a fact you want to play with the biggest local language models you can find, or your work involves super high-res image generation, this is the card that opens those doors for you. Full stop. On the other hand, you should choose the RTX 4070 if you want the best all-around performer. If you want a killer 1440p gaming experience, you want your AI tasks to finish faster, and you want a card that just has more raw power to handle whatever's coming next, the 4070 is probably worth that extra bit of cash.
So, if we boil it all down, it's this simple. The 4060 Ti 16GB is the VRAM specialist. It does one specific, very important thing really well. The RTX 4070 is the power all-arounder. It's faster and more capable across the board.
Now, if you want to see all the nitty-gritty benchmarks and read the full, in-depth analysis, we've based this on the excellent work over at bestgpusforai.com. We've dropped a link for you right in the description.
At the end of the day, the choice isn't really about which graphics card is better. It's about which card is the right tool for the job that you want to do. So the only real question left is, what are you going to create with it?